With Timmer now at the helm, WGPA's core programming remained the same, as did the air staff, which provided for a smooth transition. 5 years later, in 1997, WGPA celebrated its 50th anniversary, a milestone that was marked with a cake-cutting celebration with Miss Pennsylvania during the opening ceremonies of that year's Christmas City Fair. In 2001, WGPA entered the new millennium and a new age in radio broadcasting by beginning to stream all of its programming live on the internet at WGPASunny1100.com. With the advent of internet broadcasting, this 250-watt radio station has been able to reach a larger audience than ever and has listeners from virtually all over the world listening online. On January 20th, 2002, another honor was bestowed upon WGPA as it hosted an event held at the Days Inn Conference Center in Allentown called WGPA Appreciation Day. The sold-out event was emceed by Jolly Joe himself and featured the music of 18-time Grammy Award winner Jimmy Sturr and his orchestra. On that day, the members of Northampton County Council presented WGPA with a certificate of recognition in honor of the radio station's years of service to Bethlehem in the Lehigh Valley. Over the years, WGPA has developed not only a close relationship with its listeners, but more specifically with the city of Bethlehem as well.
I think for years, people in the community felt like WGPA was their connection.
I think that's one of the things that WGPA, I think, has kept its Bethlehem roots. It's a Bethlehem radio station, and I think they've kept it. I remember when I talked to somebody, and I was doing some sales for another radio station, which I won't name it at the time, and I remember talking to a woman that owned a business here in Bethlehem, and she said, "Oh, I'm only going to advertise on WGPA because they're the Bethlehem radio station."
The station was always there. Community events, I remember Christmas City Fair. I remember being a kid and seeing Bob Wolkin trekking his little microphone down. I was at the YMCA camp, day camp, and they had a pool set up in the center of the city. That's back when they had it right on Main Street in front of the Hotel Bethlehem. And I can still see in my mind's eye Bob Wolkin trekking along, interviewing people. Very much involved in the community. They had the Muhlenberg Hospital Fair. The station was involved in that. Very much involved in the school, Bethlehem School District, with some community programming with them. I would say that was one of the stations that stuck with its community.
One of the great things about that is it's kept that almost like a small mom and pop, if you will. I hate to use that in a negative. It's not a negative way, because I think people look at it as they can kind of take it as their own.
Throughout the first decade of the 2000s, WGPA has continued its commitment of bringing quality music, news, sports, and talk to its listeners by featuring a string of topical, local specialty programs featuring numerous hosts from the area, as well as nationally syndicated personalities as well. Today, WGPA is still located on North New Street in Bethlehem, its home since 1982. Since its inception, many owners, managers, and employees have passed through the doors of this radio station. Many of those men and women have moved on to bigger stations and have gone on to do great things in radio and in business. However, everyone who spent time at WGPA still seems to hold a special place in their hearts for this small, community-minded radio station.
I just think that WGPA is a fantastic story. A story that you're not going to find anymore, that type of thing. And just the fact that it's still around after all these years and the history that it has is absolutely incredible. These days in broadcasting, daytime stations just don't make it anymore. And the fact that they've been able to stand on their own for so long, I think is just a testament to the people that managed it and ran it and owned it. And a few of us who passed through there from time to time might have had a little something to do with it too, but not too much. I just think it's a fantastic story.
I don't think it's just I'm really glad to see that somebody wants to remember. I mean, I remember when I started, I was 17 years old, and I go in, and there were guys that had been at the station for 30 years, and they go, "Hey, those old God, you got to get them the hell out of here. They're a bunch of old dinosaurs. Jesus, who cares about guys like that?" See, nowadays, I wish those guys were still around, so we could actually do more of this. Because I kind of really do believe that what's the old phrase? If you don't study the past, you're condemned to repeat it, or whatever it is. I think history is a wonderful thing. You need to know where you were so you can figure out where to go, because otherwise you just keep, making the same mistakes were made in the past. And I'm really grateful to see that somebody cares enough to want to try and dredge all this up and try to remember some names and try to remember the history of the place, because, man, it's worth remembering.
From a media brokerage standpoint, the AM radio has remained very, very viable. It has certainly the most avid core audience of any medium by far, and what we're seeing in all our research and all our brokerage listings and everything like that, AM stations are standing up much better than FM stations. You stand there long enough, it all comes around again, and there's something about an AM station that's more personable, that's more trustworthy. String together your own selection of those particular words, but they are people tend to develop a closer bond or fondness with an AM station, and one that is never. The unique thing about GPA, the real unique thing, is it never was an abused radio station. It might have been underfunded or slightly ignored here and there in its life, but it's never been a truly abused station that was just totally put off over there and told don't bother us. We're busy with our 5 FM stations, and it never has had to endure that treatment. And I see so many AM stations because it's real hard to come back. But anybody in Bethlehem whose grandmother grew up in Bethlehem, GPA has meant more or less the same thing with natural evolution, but it's still kind of the same station it's always been in terms of its relationship to the community. And I mean, it's playing pretty much the same role in 2008 as it did in 1948. Amazing. Who else can say that? I mean, so yes, that's what I'd say. It's an amazing station and always has been.
I think the little AM radio stations might survive a little longer in some cases, not all. Some cases, the individuals are having a tough time too. But I would say, in our case, we have a better chance of survival than almost 90% of the other radio stations. Some of the big FMs have asked the FCC if they could go dark so that they wouldn't go broke. I don't think we'll go broke. I don't think we're going to be a millionaire. I don't think we're going to make a big amount of money, but I think we'll be able to sustain our expenses and still do a good job in promoting our kind of radio to the public.
No, I hope that the station stays on the air and in the community, because I think it's a connection that Bethlehem would never want to lose. I think the radio station is as integral a part of the Christmas City as anything else that's here.
This is WGPA concluding another broadcast day. Have a good evening and join us again at sign-on time tomorrow morning.